Let's talk some Seahawks, and let's bring in that former Seahawks great, Dave Wyman, joining us this morning. And Dave, we appreciate you coming on here. The Seahawks in full pads yesterday for the first time since the Super Bowl. And it was interesting because a lot of the media usually hangs around the quarterbacks and the receivers during practice. They want to see some plays. But yesterday, they all kind of gathered around the linemen because there was going to be this one-on-one contact between the O-line, the D-line. You remember those days for sure. Dave Wyman, I'm sure you remember the days when you came out here for the first time at practice and put those full pads on.
Well, I mean, for us, it was the first day you put the pads on, and maybe that wasn't physiologically the best thing to do, right? Remember when I went to Denver, we had 5 double days consecutively, full contact, tackle to the ground, everything like you're playing a football game. So, yeah, it's just a little bit different, and I think it's more of a challenge. But really, I mean, the thing I get excited about really the one place you want to focus on the most is the run game and the fits as far as the blocks go and everything. Because if you're doing walkthrough and you're in T-shirts and shorts, there's still, the fits are really tight, and you have to have your helmet in an exact spot, and it doesn't always get there when you don't have pads on. So, that's the exciting part. And I think, the big mystery this year for the Seahawks is going to be this new run game and the new offensive coordinator, Brian Fleury. And so how does that work out when you're in full pads and it looks like an actual game being played? That's the exciting part.
Yeah, well, we have a former Husky running back here, and I'm sure that when you put the pads on back in the day, how'd that feel?
Yeah, it was an exciting feeling, to be honest with you. You spend an entire offseason getting ready, the cardios come together, the weight room has come together, all the training, all the meetings, and then you get that first day in pads, and you're so excited to get there and take that aggression out on somebody else in the full pads. And it was just such an exciting time, right? But what I also remember is the following day. That feeling like, oh my God, how do I get out of bed? Like your legs don't move, your body's like this, and you got to go through the rest of the double days feeling like that. And then it's probably like 3 or 4 days later that you finally get acclimated to it and your body starts feeling normal again.
Yeah.
And Dave, I know you remember that feeling.
Oh, totally. And there's no way to get in shape for that, right? So like when you train in the off season, your brain tells you, okay, I'm about to run a 40, I'm about to do bench press, whatever. When you go out on the field and you start playing, your eyes take you places that your body doesn't necessarily expect. So that kind of also hitting people, your neck is going to get sore. Terry, I learned in it took me a while, but my 7th year to get in a cold tub. And when I went to Denver, they had like these big garbage cans with ice in there. And it's hard. I mean, getting in there, there's a certain part on your body that needs to freeze. And once that freezes, then it feels okay. But yeah, I mean, I that was like really refreshing and something that I had to do in my later years. My, year 7, 8, and 9 is get in that cold tub and make sure you ice everything down.
Hey, Dave, you hinted at the run game a little bit. Obviously, they drafted Jadarian Price in the first round. We haven't really been able to see, really what his potential could be without hitting. Now that we have some hitting going on, what do we kind of want to look for in his game?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. That is exactly what you need full pads for. In Jadarian Price, I watched him at the Combine. Looks phenomenal. I mean, all of the drills, everything, and Terry would know this better than anyone. It's like one step and go. There's no stutter steps or anything like that. And so we've seen that. We saw him at the Combine, and then we saw him at Notre Dame. But can he do it in the NFL? And here's the good news is we'll find out, because this is the best defense in the league, and you're going against them if you're an offensive player every day. I mean, that if you can make cuts and be decisive, and you're looking at Brian Fleury there, the new offensive coordinator, we need to see that in full pads. And so that's going to be a big test, and I can't wait to see what Jadarian Price looks like today at practice, because that's a big part of the run game. Or, like I said, the fits and being physical and going against a really good defense. I think it's going to be very telling how he does today in practice.
Well, Mike McDonald said before camp even started there was going to be a heavy load put on Jadarian Price throughout the season. Really wanted to ride the horse a little bit and see how he responds. Here's Mike after the first day of pads practice.
The intent was there. There was physicality, both sides making plays. Just incremental gains operation-wise. Didn't have a lot of guys on the ground, which is great. Just back and forth. So just noticing a lot of great things, like individually and in each unit. When you do put pads on, it's more playing football again. So to see them make plays playing football is great. But it's an indication of the work they put in. They've done a great job up to this point, and they're rookies, so they're swimming a little bit schematically, but that's as expected, and they just got to kind of work through the fog until start making plays like today. They gain more confidence, and so just keep rolling.
All right, Dave, we're looking at all those guys out there at practice in the last couple of days. In your opinion, when it comes to putting on those full pads, which position do you think makes the biggest advancements or shows the most gain from putting those pads on?
Offensive line. Definitely, yeah, and that's a huge part of what they want to do. They obviously want to run the ball, but are those guys going to be able to, like I said, get the fits? And what I mean by that is you have to be. It's very exact, like what's your aiming point, and can you get there? And I think that's probably the biggest test right there for the offensive line, because you can see them hitting a sled and everything, and that was impressive when they were hitting that 5-man sled the other day. I mean, those guys were tossing this 2,000-pound piece of equipment around like it was a toy. But when you get against this, especially this defensive line, it's really tough to try to get angles. And so that's really, I think, the one area that I'm going to be watching the most is O-line. And, I think everybody kind of complains a little bit around the NFL about their offensive line. It's kind of like a starting rotation, right? You only, you have like an ace and you got like 2, 3, maybe 4, but never all 5. And I think the big question mark this year is at right guard, of course, with Anthony Bradford. So we'll see what happens and if somebody pushes him. But yeah, it's very important for guys like Anthony Bradford to get out there and get those fits and be in full pads, because when he gets a hold of somebody, he crushes them. But every once in a while, he'll, kind of zone out a little bit. So we'll see if he's got that concentration this year.
Yeah, real quick, and talking about the sled, I was wondering, with one quote in the words of the great Miyagi, sled no hit back.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, HBO's Hard Knocks has a crew here made up of about 40 people, and I think Mike had about 30 of them around him yesterday as he continued to kind of make the rounds, and he's handling it all like a champ. The first episode of Hard Knocks is coming up Tuesday, August 4th. HBO did release a little bit of a clip. We can't show it to you, of course, but we can show you a little bit about what Mike McDonald said, because he seems to be embracing it right now. This is verbatim here. This is a gift from the football gods. I'm one of the most awkward guys in the history of America. All I'm worried about is creating the best football team we can possibly create. It's a gift because it reminds us to be us. That's pretty good advice, Dave. When you talk about Mike McDonald, he kind of just embraces his own awkwardness out there. Players love him. They think he's funny. And, I think it's just a great approach when you know this is going to be in your face here for 3 or 4 weeks.
Last year, we talked to Mike Morris, and he said that Mike McDonald will come into the D-line room and then, be kind of awkward and then say, hey, why is it so awkward in here? And Mike said that a lot of the players will say, because you came in here and made it awkward. So Mike, that's just his personality. I think he's hilarious. He's got a great sense of humor, and the guys love him. But that's, like he said, we need to be us, and that's the thing I think he really concentrates on with his players is let them be who they are, and that's really cool. And I love his personality. I think it is kind of quirky. And the other thing about him is he'll light people up every once in a while. You hear him out at practice if he's not happy about how a drill is going. Yeah, I mean, he's a highly intelligent person, but you can hear some swear words coming out sometime. He's like a typical football coach, and he's kind of old school in that way. So yeah, he's just a very interesting person, and I only got a chance to talk to him like 2 or 3 times, but I would say this: 2 of the 3 times I was laughing based on the things that he said.
Yeah, well, Sam Darnold had some things to say about his coach yesterday when he talked to the media for the first time during this training camp. He thinks his head coach could be a reluctant star on HBO Hard Knocks.
Honestly, I think the head coach, the head ball coach, Mike. I think he'll shine bright on Hard Knocks just for people to kind of see his personality and his personality come to life. I think is because he's a great guy. Obviously, we know him. We know who he is as our head coach and as a person. And I think for the entire world to see that is going to be really cool.
Here's a meme that might see a lot more of action this season because people are likely to come up with a lot of captions for it. But there it is, Mike. He's enjoying this moment, Ariel, and you think that I think the players are enjoying it. We had a chance to talk to some of the crew members this week, and they're saying that this is refreshing for them to be in Seattle for the first time ever, and they've kind of regenerated and kind of a rebirth of their excitement to shoot this show.
Well, it's a totally different experience this year because usually you're talking to teams that are kind of at the bottom of the barrel or just rebuilding, and now you have the Super Bowl champs. It's a very unique situation. Plus, who wouldn't want to be out here in the summertime? You're not in like Tampa or somewhere like that. You're in the most beautiful weather where you kind of almost need a little sweater right now.
But listen, this is what I've always said about Seattle and shows like Hard Knocks and shows like Monday Night Football when we're the only show in town. Is the rest of the country and the world for that matter gets to see what we experience every day here in Seattle. This beautiful environment, this incredible community, and this football that we're so crazy about. Everybody gets to see what we're excited about here.
All right, let's bring in Dave. I want to ask you this, Dave. We talk about contracts as we get back to the nuts and bolts about Devin Witherspoon's going to get a contract basically any day now. Mike Garafolo, NFL insider, he jumped on the Daily Puck Drop podcast and said that Leonard Williams could be getting a big deal awfully soon. Leo's average annual salary currently $21.5 million. The Eagles just gave Jalen Carter a contract worth $38 million a season. So Big Cat is due for a big raise. That's got to be something I'm sure the Seahawks are going to take care of.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I think about whenever I'll reflect back on this season, I'll think about the defense, number one. And when I think about the defense, I think of Leonard Williams. He's the most versatile player. What a great pickup in the midseason a couple of years ago by John Schneider. But incredible versatility. And that's what, Mike McDonald is looking for. He's looking for a guy like Witherspoon that can play in the box, can play outside, can play safety, Nicky Manwari, and then Leonard Williams. And I think Leonard Williams, more than anybody, exemplifies that diversity, that he can line up on the center. He can line up in a wide nine coming off the edge. He can line up anywhere on that defensive line. So, yeah, it's that's one of the things about, you get kind of a little bit apprehensive about is that you got to start paying guys now. I mean, eventually, like Nicky Manwari he's gonna come due. So, yeah, and same thing with Leonard Williams, and now we're going through the Spoon thing. But John Schneider always seems to find money and always seems to find a way to be under the cap and work things and, give upfront money or something like that to kind of sweeten the deal. The other thing I would say is that we're now to a point, I think, where guys are going to take maybe a little bit less or maybe a lot less to stay here in Seattle. And, I kind of thought that with the Derek Hall contract, that Boye Mafe got $20 million a year. He's only getting 14, Derek Hall is. And I think he's a better player. I'm sorry. He just is. He's a much more complete player. So, and we talked to Derek Hall about it, and he said, yeah, I want to be here. And so, and I'm not saying people are going to give up 10, 15, 20 million, but if it's even close, I think the players want to be here. We're like, like the mayor of Seattle just said there, Terry Holloman, this is a beautiful place. And, everybody loves the VMAC and the food and how they take care of the players and everything. So, yeah, I think that's what you're going to start to see a little bit more.
I couldn't agree more, and I do think you're actually going to see that with Leonard Williams. Like, while he had his most productive year at 32, he is 32 years old. So you're looking at Jalen Carter, who's 25 with the Eagles. Obviously, you're going to want to pay him if he's producing like that at 25. But at 32, I don't know that he's going to get that same amount. I do think he's in line for a raise.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Leonard, as you said, I think it'll be a shorter deal. It'll be all about that guaranteed money, so they'll take care of him up front.